"How high is the storm belt?" asked Captain Voltano. 5 miles, replied the first officer, consulting the instrument for altitude. "Ascend above it to the region of calm," ordered the captain. The ship's prow was directly obliquely upward, and she began to ascend in great spherical circles towards the clouds. She had risen about 600 feet, and while I was admiring the ease with which she was surmounting the gale, suddenly one of the wings broke loose. "Hold fast!" shouted the captain. The ship tilted sideways and almost capsized. We clung to the railing. A cry arose. "Man overboard!" John, who had been carelessly leaning against the railing, was thrown over and fell 600 feet down into the sea. Captain Voltano quickly cast a belt around his shoulders, snatched up a short metal staff, to which was attached a small crystal globe, locked it firmly to the belt, and taking up the instrument resembling a small folded parasol, secured it to a strap, threw off his cape and overcoat, and then shouting to the crew, "Clear away the broken wing and follow me!" stepped on the railing, sprang over, and disappeared. I was overwhelmed with horror, and felt that even if John reached the water alive, his breath would be knocked out of him when he struck. The daring act of the captain amazed me. "Does John know how to swim?" the doctor asked. "He is the most expert swimmer and diver I ever saw. I have often seen him jump from the main top gallant mast down to the sea for mere sport and swim for miles. But of what avail are any man's powers from this awful height? He will be killed at once, or stunned into insensibility and perish in the waves." "If the blow does not kill him, he will be saved. We must hope for the best. As for the captain, armed with his aerostat and jarrol, he wouldn't mind jumping from the ship if she were 10 miles high." The engineers now reversed the batteries. The ship righted, and with her four wings only in motion, descended in a long spiral towards the sea, then coursing slowly to and fro just above the waters, threw out a powerful electric light, illuminating them to a great distance, and blew loud whistles. In a few moments a solitary light was seen glimmering in the darkness. A faint "Hullo" was heard, and the ship came to. An extraordinary spectacle now appeared. Captain Voltano was suspended a few feet above the waves, upheld by his aerostat, which shone like an electric light. John was clinging to his waist. The captain was holding his gyro by the handle, straight in front. It resembled a small Japanese parasol thrown open, and was swiftly whirling on its handle like an electric fan, drawing them rapidly through the air. In a few moments they reached the ship and descended to the deck. John presented a ludicrous appearance, with his jacket swollen out all around him. The captain unscrewed a button in the collar. The confining air rushed out, and he shrank to his original dimensions. I expressed my sincere thanks to the captain for his noble and daring act. "It was near nothing," he replied. "No man was ever lost from an airship flying over the ocean, although many have fallen overboard. The jackets with which we are clothed contain within the lining a small quantity of the crystallized chemical elements of the atmosphere, which are decomposed when the water comes in contact with them, and envelop large quantities of air, which swells the jacket out, forming a perfect life preserver, supporting the body above the water." I examined the aerostat. It was a crystal globe about a foot in diameter, containing a small aerovolt battery, and fastened to the straps around the shoulders. By touching a spring in the handle, the wearer could increase or diminish its elevating power, and thereby ascend to any required height, or descend at pleasure. The gyro was a flat parasol-shaped air fan, about 3 feet in diameter when opened. Its framework was composed of delicate metallic vanes arranged at required angle around the staff, or handle, within which was a small electric motor. It was held in the hand or attached to a belt around the waist. When put in motion, it revolved with immense velocity, and when the wearer was upheld by his aerostat, it could draw him through the air swifter than a horse on a full gallop. "Well, John," fatuously remarked the doctor, "you descended from the ship with rather more haste than dignity. Please relate your adventures by the way." When tumble overboard, big heap full for that, me draw knees up close to chin, clap hand over nose, hold breath tight, fall down terribly swift. It strike the water flat, knock breath all out, but me no better, no let arms, legs sprawl about. Strike water head first or bottom side first, don't care which, go in water just like a wedge, down deep, water gurgle and hiss all around, jacket swell out, canoe go down and no more. Next minute me come up, pop, like cork out of beer bottle. Me like big rolling sea, but me no like jacket what swell out like balloon. Cano swim, can know how, float around like a frog when you blow up his belly with a pipe. Now when storm go down, you go up 5 times higher than the topmast of the biggest ship in the world. Me dive down head first and swim 10 miles. Bet $100 on it. Will any gentleman take a bet? As no one volunteered to accept the challenge, John was voted the champion swimmer and diver of the day. As the waves are running high, said the captain, although our ship can make good headway against them, I will take the opportunity to show our guests how easily our airship can swim underwater. Then to the engineers, withdraw the wings, reverse batteries, and descend beneath the surface. We entered the cabin. The hatchway was closed. A loud gurgling announced the ship had plunged beneath the waves. The light was lit. Start the propeller and headlight. This was done. A slight oscillation announced that she was moving through the water. I looked through the circular glass in the prow, and along the sides the sea was brightly illuminated all around by light. Sea fish in all varieties and shapes, such as I had never seen before amongst the oceans of earth, attracted by the light, clustered around the ship, some gazing curiously at us with their glassy eyes, or rubbing their noses against the windows. One huge monster, whether shark or whale I could not make out, opened his jaws, rushing forward, and repeatedly bit at the ship's side, his teeth grating against the metal hull like the sound of a stone crushing machine. Well, old fellow, said the captain, are you trying to get a toothache? The monster finally gave up and disappeared. How deep have we descended? I asked. About 100 feet, which is deep enough to avoid the perturbations of the most violent storms, replied he. How deep can you sink beneath the surface? About 1.5 miles only. We have ships which can descend to far greater depths where the water pressures amount to several tons per square foot. I hope to have the pleasure some day of escorting you to certain parts of our ocean where the depth is so great that the water feels like quicksilver. I should think the hulls of your ships would be crushed by the enormous pressure. How do they resist it? By their style of build, etc. They are constructed of the strongest metals, expressly adapted to resist the great amount of aqueous pressure. Besides, their interior being filled with air materially aids their powers of resistance. How long can you remain underwater? As long as we please, a week, a month, if necessary. We renovate the air by our generators. And the captain touched a valve in the generator, letting a supply of fresh air in the cabin, then opening a valve in the roof, the confined air rushing out with a loud hiss. A terrible sound now rang through the cabin. It was like the roar of the rapids of the Niagara. What noise is that? I asked. It is the rush of the ship going through the water. How fast is she going? 60 miles an hour. Notwithstanding this tremendous speed, there was only a slight oscillation of the ship. What time do the polar magnetic engines fire up? Asked the doctor. 9 o'clock precisely, replied the captain, looking at his watch. It is now the hour. We must try to reach the Anglesey Bay by tomorrow morning. It's nearly 3,000 miles distance, but I think we can make it in spite of the broken wing. Then to the engineers, withdraw the propeller and headlight, get out the storm wings and ascend to the surface. A rattling sound was heard in the hold. The prow of the ship was directed upwards. A slight rocking took place as she shot high above the surface, upheld by the swift motion of her storm wings. We looked through the windows. The night was dark. The rain fell in torrents, and loud above the roaring of the billows arose the shriek of the gale.